Historia Completa, Blocko 1 to 4. I never believed in signs from the universe until that night at 3 in the morning, when insomnia dragged me out of bed and down the marble staircase of my Greenwich mansion, and I found her there in my kitchen, a 17-year-old girl who shouldn't have been anywhere near my house at that hour, scrubbing dishes like her life depended on it. Let me back up because this story doesn't start at 3 a.m. on a random Tuesday in October. It starts 15 years earlier when I hired Rosa Martinez to clean my house twice a week, back when I was just another tech entrepreneur, trying to build something meaningful, back when my wife Amanda was still alive and our home was filled with laughter, instead of the suffocating silence that's become my only companion since she died 4 years ago. Rosa was different from the start. She didn't just clean, she cared. When Amanda got sick, when the cancer came like a thief in the night and stole everything we'd built together, Rosa was there. She held Amanda's hand during the bad days. She made soup that Amanda couldn't eat but appreciated anyway. She cried with me at the funeral when my own family had already left when the house emptied, and I realized I was truly alone. After Amanda died, I threw myself into work. My software company exploded. The valuation hit $2 billion, then 5, then numbers that stopped meaning anything. I bought this ridiculous mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, with 14 bedrooms I'd never use and a kitchen designed for entertaining I'd never do. Rosa went from twice a week cleaning to full-time housekeeper, and honestly, she became the only human interaction I could tolerate. She knew when to talk and when to leave me alone. She knew how I took my coffee. She knew that every year on Amanda's birthday I'd stay in bed all day, and she'd leave a single white rose outside my door without saying a word. I knew Rosa had a daughter, Sophia. I'd seen her a few times over the years, always polite, always studying at the kitchen table while Rosa worked. Brilliant kid, Rosa would say with so much pride it made my chest ache. Going to be the first in our family to go to college. Wants to be a doctor, straight A student. But I hadn't really paid attention, you know. I was too wrapped up in my own grief, my own empire, my own isolation. Rosa was part of the furniture of my life, reliable and constant, and I'm ashamed to admit I never looked deeper than that. Until that October night when insomnia hit hard around 2:30 a.m. I've never slept well since Amanda died. The bed feels too big, the house too quiet, and my mind won't stop running through all the things I should have done differently. Should have noticed her symptoms earlier. Should have pushed her to see doctors sooner. Should have spent less time in boardrooms and more time holding her hand. The regret is a living thing that eats me from the inside out, especially in those dark hours before dawn. So I got up, pulled on sweatpants and a t-shirt, and padded downstairs to make tea. That's when I heard it, the sound of running water and the clink of dishes from the kitchen. My first thought was that we were being robbed, which was ridiculous because what kind of burglar does dishes? My second thought was that Rosa had come in early for some reason, except Rosa never came before 8 a.m. I walked into the kitchen and stopped dead. Sophia was standing at my industrial sink washing dishes with an intensity that seemed almost violent. She was wearing a stained uniform from some restaurant I didn't recognize, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, and even from across the room I could see the exhaustion carved into her young face like she'd aged 10 years since the last time I'd seen her. She didn't notice me at first. She was completely focused on scrubbing a pan, her movements mechanical and desperate, and I saw her wipe her eyes with her forearm, smearing soapy water across her face. She was crying. "Sophia?" I said, and she jumped so violently that the pan clattered into the sink, soap splashing everywhere. She spun around and the terror on her face hit me like a physical blow. Her eyes went wide, her whole body tensed like she was about to run, and for a moment neither of us moved. "Mr. Chen?" she stammered, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry, I didn't think anyone would be awake. I was going to clean up and leave before anyone saw. I'm sorry. Please don't tell my mom, please." The words tumbled out in a panicked rush, and I held up my hands like I was approaching a frightened animal. "Sophia, slow down," I said. "What are you doing here at 3 in the morning? Shouldn't you be home? Asleep? In school tomorrow?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Her hands were shaking, still covered in dish soap, and I saw red marks on her fingers like she'd been scrubbing for hours. "I was just helping out," she said weakly. "Mom's been so tired lately, and I thought I'd come early and do some extra cleaning before school, and I'll still make it to school on time, I promise. This won't affect my work or anything." It was such an obvious lie that I almost laughed, except there was nothing funny about the desperation in her eyes. "Sophia, you're wearing a restaurant uniform," I pointed out gently. "And those aren't dishes from my house. I ate at the office yesterday and had cereal from a bowl this morning that's still upstairs. What's really going on?" Her face crumpled. For a second I thought she was going to cry again, but she pulled herself together with visible effort, straightening her shoulders like she was preparing for battle. "I have a part-time job," she said, "at a restaurant downtown. Sometimes I come here after my shift to help Mom with prep work for the next day so she doesn't have to do as much. That's all. It's not a big deal." "A part-time job that ends at 3 a.m. on a school night? I make it work." "And your mother knows about this?" The hesitation was answer enough. "Sophia, sit down," I said, gesturing to the kitchen island. When she didn't move, I added more firmly, "Sit, please." She perched on the edge of a stool like she might bolt at any second, and I moved to the other side of the island, keeping distance between us so she wouldn't feel trapped. Up close, she looked even worse than I'd first thought. The circles under her eyes were so dark they looked like bruises. Her uniform had stains I didn't want to identify. Her hands weren't just red from dishwater. They were chapped and raw, like she'd been working them to the bone. This wasn't just a teenager with a part-time job. This was something else entirely. "How long have you been doing this?" I asked quietly. "Doing what?" "Don't insult my intelligence, Sophia. You're obviously exhausted. You're in my house at 3 in the morning. You're terrified I'm going to tell your mother. How long have you been working nights?" She stared at the marble countertop, her jaw working like she was trying to decide how much to tell me. "A few months," she finally whispered. "And school?" "I'm managing. Are you? Because Rosa told me 2 months ago how proud she was that you'd been accepted to Columbia with a partial scholarship. She said you were going to be pre-med. She said you were top of your class." I paused. "Is that still true?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears, and this time she couldn't stop them from falling. "I had to make some choices," she said, her voice barely audible. "Things changed. Family circumstances changed. I'm still planning to go to college, just maybe not next year. Maybe I'll take a gap year and work and save up and then go." Something cold settled in my stomach. Rosa had been looking tired lately, now that I thought about it. Thinner, moving slower. I'd attributed it to age, to the natural wear of working in someone else's house for 15 years, but what if it was something else? "Is your mother okay?" I asked. Sophia's head snapped up and the panic was back in full force. "She's fine," she said too quickly. "Totally fine. Why would you ask that?" "Because her 17-year-old daughter is working herself to death at 3 in the morning, and you're terrified I'm going to tell her about it. Because you just said family circumstances changed. Because I'm not an idiot, Sophia." She stood abruptly, soap still dripping from her hands onto my imported Italian tile floor. "I have to go," she said. "I have another shift at 6 and I need to catch the bus, and please, please don't tell my mom you saw me here. She doesn't know about the extra jobs, and if she finds out she'll make me quit, and we need the money, we really need the money." "Extra jobs? Plural?" She froze, realizing she'd said too much. "Sophia, how many jobs are you working?" "It doesn't matter. Thank you for not being mad about me using your kitchen. I'll never do it again. I promise." She moved toward the door, but I stepped in front of her, not blocking her exactly, but making it clear I wasn't done with this conversation. "I'm not mad," I said carefully. "I'm concerned. You're a kid. You should be sleeping and studying and worrying about prom, not working multiple jobs and sneaking into houses at 3 a.m. Something is very wrong here. and I want to help." "You can't help," she said, and the flatness in her voice was somehow worse than the panic. "Nobody can help. Some things you just have to deal with on your own." "Why? Why do you have to deal with it alone?" "Because that's how it is for people like us. We don't have safety nets. We don't have trust funds. When things go wrong, we handle it ourselves." The words hung between us, and I felt them like a slap. People like us. She meant people like her and Rosa, people who worked for people like me, people who existed in my world but weren't of my world. She was right, of course. I'd never had to worry about money, never had to choose between school and survival. Even when Amanda got sick, I'd had the best doctors, the best hospitals, unlimited resources to throw at the problem. It hadn't saved her, but at least I'd had the luxury of trying everything. What did Rosa have? What did Sophia have? "Your mother is one of the most important people in my life," I said quietly. She held my hand when my wife died. "She's been here for me through the darkest period I've ever experienced. If she's in trouble, if you're in trouble, I need to know. Please, Sophia, let me help." For a moment I thought I'd gotten through to her. Her face softened, her shoulders sagged, and she looked like she might finally tell me the truth. Then she shook her head. "I can't," she whispered. "Mom has her pride. If she knew I was talking to you about this, if she knew you knew anything was wrong, it would destroy her. She's always been so careful to keep her personal life separate from work. She'd be mortified. Pride is less important than health and safety. Not to her. You don't understand. Mom has spent her entire life proving she doesn't need charity, that she can take care of herself and me without anyone's pity. If I betray that now, I'll lose her trust forever." She moved past me toward the door, and this time I let her go. But as she reached the hallway, I called out, "Sophia, I won't tell your mother I saw you tonight, but I can't promise I won't try to figure out what's going on. If something is seriously wrong, ignoring it won't make it better." She turned back, and the look she gave me was ancient, far too old for 17. "Some things don't get better, Mr. Chen," she said. "Sometimes you just have to survive them." Then she was gone, slipping out the back door into the pre-dawn darkness, leaving me standing in my empty kitchen with more questions than answers and a growing sense of dread I couldn't shake. I didn't go back to bed. I made tea, I didn't drink, and sat at the island where Sophia had sat, staring at the soap bubbles still floating in my sink. And I thought about Amanda, about how she'd hidden her symptoms from me for months because she didn't want to worry me, about how she'd smiled through pain because she thought I needed her to be strong, about how by the time I finally understood how sick she really was, we'd already wasted precious time we could have used fighting together. Pride, independence, the need to handle everything alone. It had cost me my wife. I wasn't going to let it cost Rosa and Sophia everything too. As dawn broke over Greenwich, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold through my floor-to-ceiling windows, I made a decision. I was going to figure out what was happening to this family that had been there for me when I needed them most. And then I was going to fix it, whether they wanted me to or not. Some battles are too important to fight alone. I'd learned that lesson too late with Amanda. I wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. The next morning, Rosa arrived at 8 a.m. like clockwork, and I watched her differently. Really watched her. Maybe for the first time in months, and I hated myself for not noticing sooner. She looked tired. No, tired wasn't the right word. She looked exhausted in a bone-deep way that went beyond a few bad nights of sleep. Her uniform hung looser than I remembered. Her movements were slower, more careful, like everything hurt. And when she thought I wasn't looking, she pressed her hand against her side and closed her eyes like she was waiting for pain to pass. How long had this been happening? How long had I been so wrapped up in my own misery that I'd failed to see someone suffering right in front of me? "Good morning, Mr. Chen," she said with that same warm smile she always gave me, the smile that had gotten me through Amanda's funeral and 1,000 dark days after. "I'll have your breakfast ready in just a moment. The usual?" "Rosa, sit down," I said. Her smile faltered. Sir? Please, just sit for a minute. I want to talk to you. She sat, but her posture was rigid, worried. In 15 years, I'd never asked her to sit and talk. We had a rhythm, a professional distance that she maintained carefully, and I was breaking the rules. Is everything all right? She asked. Have I done something wrong? Because if the cleaning hasn't been up to standard lately, I apologize. I've been meaning to deep clean the upstairs bathrooms, and I'll get to that today. The house is perfect. It's always perfect. That's not what this is about. I leaned against the counter, trying to look casual and probably failing. Rosa, how are you feeling? Health-wise, I mean. The change in her face was subtle but there. A tightening around her eyes, a fraction of a second where the mask slipped. I'm fine, she said. Why do you ask? You seem tired lately. Thinner. I'm worried about you. Oh, that's very kind, Mr. Chen, but really I'm perfectly fine. Just getting older, you know how it is. Can't work like I used to when I was 20. She laughed, but it sounded forced. I should probably eat more, you're right. Sophia's always telling me the same thing. How is Sophia? I asked, watching her carefully. Still doing well in school? Rosa's whole face lit up, genuine pride replacing the careful mask. Oh, she's wonderful. So smart, Mr. Chen. She got accepted to Columbia, did I tell you? Pre-med. She's going to be a doctor. Can you imagine? My daughter, a doctor. Her eyes got misty. Everything I've worked for, every sacrifice, it's all worth it when I see her succeeding like this. The word sacrifice hit me like a punch. What sacrifices? What wasn't she telling me? That's incredible, I said. You must be very proud. When does she start? Next fall. She got a partial scholarship, and we've been saving, and she'll probably need to take some loans, but we'll make it work. We always do. There it was again. That phrase. We'll make it work. The mantra of people who've been making it work their whole lives without help, without safety nets, without the luxury of failure. Rosa, if you ever need anything, I started, but she was already standing, already moving toward the stove, already retreating behind professional boundaries. That's very generous, Mr. Chen, but we're fine, really. Now let me make your breakfast before you're late for your meeting. I didn't have a meeting, but she knew I wouldn't push further. Not here, not now. She was drawing the line and I had to respect it. For now. But I spent that entire day distracted, barely hearing a word in the board meeting that determined the future of a multi-million-dollar acquisition. My mind was in my kitchen, watching Rosa move too carefully, seeing Sophia's exhausted face at 3 a.m., hearing that flatness in her voice when she said some things you just have to deal with on your own. That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I stayed home after Rosa left, and at 11 p.m., I got in my car and drove to the address I'd pulled from Rosa's employment file. They lived in Bridgeport, about 40 minutes away, in a neighborhood that made my Greenwich mansion feel like a different planet. Small houses crammed together, cars that had seen better decades, chain-link fences, and the kind of tired hopelessness that settles over places where people work 3 jobs and still can't get ahead. Rosa's house was a tiny bungalow with peeling paint and a porch that sagged in the middle. The lights were off. I sat in my Tesla down the block feeling like a creep, feeling like I was violating their privacy, but unable to leave. At 11:45, Sophia came out the front door. She was wearing different clothes now, jeans and a sweatshirt, and she had a backpack slung over her shoulder. She looked both ways like she was checking for witnesses, then started walking quickly down the street. I followed her at a distance, which felt even more wrong, but I needed to understand. She walked 6 blocks to a bus stop and waited. At midnight, a bus came and she got on. I followed in my car, staying back far enough that she wouldn't notice, and watched where she got off. A 24-hour diner on the outskirts of Bridgeport. She went in through the back entrance, and 15 minutes later, I saw her through the window wearing a waitress uniform, taking orders from the graveyard shift crowd of truck drivers and insomniacs. I sat in my car in that parking lot for 2 hours, watching her work, watching her smile at customers who probably didn't tip well, watching her carry heavy trays and refill coffee cups and move with that same desperate efficiency she'd had in my kitchen. At 2 a.m., her shift ended. She came out, counted what looked like a pathetically small amount of cash and started walking to another bus stop. I should have gone home then. I should have given her privacy, given myself time to think about what to do with this information. Instead, I followed her to the next bus, and the next location. An office building downtown where she let herself in with a key, emerging 30 minutes later with a cart full of cleaning supplies. She cleaned offices until 4:30 in the morning. I watched through the windows as she vacuumed and emptied trash and scrubbed toilets in empty corporate spaces, and something in my chest cracked open. This child, this brilliant 17-year-old who should have been worried about calculus tests and college applications, was working 3 jobs through the night and somehow still planning to go to school in the morning. How was she even functioning? When did she sleep? When did she study? When did she get to just be a kid? At 5 a.m., she finished her cleaning shift and walked to yet another bus stop. This time, I knew where she was going before the bus even arrived. My house. To do prep work for her mother, to scrub my dishes and organize my pantry, to make her mother's job easier because her mother was clearly too sick to do it all herself anymore. I didn't follow her this time. I drove home ahead of her, parked in the garage, and went upstairs to my bedroom. But I didn't sleep. I sat by my window and watched the sun rise, and I thought about Amanda. Amanda, who had been so independent, so determined to handle everything herself. Amanda, who had smiled through pain and hidden symptoms and insisted she was fine right up until she collapsed one day, and the doctors told us the cancer had spread everywhere, that if we'd caught it earlier, maybe we would have had more time. I'd been angry at her for that. Angry that she'd robbed us of precious months by hiding the truth. Angry that her pride had cost us our last chance to fight together. But sitting there in my bedroom, watching dawn break over Greenwich while a 17-year-old girl scrubbed my kitchen after working all night, I understood Amanda's pride for the first time. It wasn't about being stubborn or difficult. It was about dignity, about not wanting to be a burden, about trying to protect the people you loved from worry, even if it meant carrying impossible weight alone. Rosa was doing the same thing. Hiding something terrible, some illness or catastrophe, trying to protect Sophia, trying to maintain her independence and dignity, even as it killed her. And Sophia had figured it out somehow. Sophia knew her mother was in trouble and had decided to handle it herself, to work herself into the ground rather than let her mother's sacrifice be for nothing. 2 women, both drowning, both too proud to ask for help, both trying to save each other while destroying themselves. I knew this story. I'd lived this story, and I knew how it ended if no one intervened. At 6:30 a.m., Rosa arrived for work, and I was waiting in the kitchen. Sophia was gone, probably rushing to school, probably running on 0 sleep and pure willpower. "Mr. Chen," Rosa said, surprised, "you're up early. I'll have coffee ready in just a moment. Rosa, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." She froze, and I saw fear flash across her face. "Of course, sir." "Are you sick?" The coffee pot slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor, coffee and glass everywhere, spreading across my expensive tile, and Rosa just stood there staring at the mess like she couldn't process what had happened. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'll clean this up. I'll replace the pot. I'm so sorry." She knelt down and started picking up glass with her bare hands, and I saw her wince as a piece cut her finger, blood mixing with the coffee. "Rosa, stop," I said, kneeling beside her. "Stop, you're hurting yourself." I'm fine, I just need to clean this up." "Rosa, look at me." She wouldn't. She kept grabbing at glass pieces, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold them, and I realized she was crying. "I can't lose this job," she said. "Please, Mr. Chen, I can't lose this job. I'll be more careful. I'll work harder. I'll replace everything I broke. Please don't fire me." The desperation in her voice broke something in me. "I'm not firing you," I said firmly. "I'm never firing you. Rosa, please, just stop and look at me." She finally did, her eyes red and terrified, blood dripping from her finger onto the floor. "Are you sick?" I asked again, gently this time. She opened her mouth and I could see her trying to construct another lie, another deflection. But something in my face must have told her it was pointless. "It doesn't matter," she finally said. "I'm handling it. It matters to me. Rosa, you've been with me for 15 years. You held my hand when Amanda died. Your family. If something is wrong, I need to know." "I'm not your family," she said quietly. "I'm your employee, and employees don't burden their employers with personal problems. That's not how I see you, and you know it." She stared at the broken coffee pot, at the mess spreading across the floor. "I have cancer," she said, so quietly I almost didn't hear her. "Pancreatic stage 4. I've been doing treatment, but it's expensive, and the insurance doesn't cover everything, and I'm managing it. I'm handling it. Sophia doesn't even know." My heart stopped. Sophia doesn't know? No, and she can't know. She has Columbia next year. She has her whole life ahead of her. I'm not going to ruin that by making her worry about me. I've kept it from her this long. I just need to keep going a little longer. "Rosa, stage 4 pancreatic cancer." I know what it is," she interrupted. "I know the statistics. I know the odds. But there's an experimental treatment, a clinical trial, and it's working. I'm responding well. The doctors are surprised. I might actually have a chance. But I need to keep working. I need my insurance. I need the income, so please, please don't fire me." I sat back on my heels, glass crunching under me, and I wanted to scream. This woman, this incredible woman who had given me 15 years of loyalty and compassion, was dying, was fighting for her life, was working herself to death to pay for treatments that might save her. And she was apologizing to me, begging me not to fire her, worried about being a burden. "How much?" I asked. "What? How much do the treatments cost? What's not covered by insurance?" She shook her head. "Mr. Chen, I'm not asking for money. I'm not offering. I'm demanding to know." "How much?" "It doesn't matter. I'm handling it." "Rosa, I swear to God, if you say you're handling it one more time." I took a breath, steadied myself. "How are you paying for it?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I sold my mother's jewelry. I took a loan against the house. I've been picking up extra shifts." She paused. "Sophia doesn't know about any of it. She thinks I'm just tired from work. She thinks everything is fine." But Sophia did know. Sophia had somehow found out, and Sophia was working 3 jobs through the night to try to help without her mother knowing she knew. A circle of secrets and sacrifices, each of them trying to protect the other, both of them drowning. "I need to tell you something," I said, "and you're not going to like it." Rosa's face went pale. "What do you mean?" I helped her to her feet, guided her to a chair, and wrapped her bleeding finger in a clean kitchen towel. Then I sat across from her and told her everything. About finding Sophia in my kitchen at 3 a.m., about following her last night through her 3 different jobs, about watching her 17-year-old daughter work herself into exhaustion while pretending everything was normal. With every word, Rosa's face crumpled a little more. By the time I finished, she was sobbing, her whole body shaking with the force of it. "No," she kept saying. "No, no, no. She can't know. She's supposed to be studying. She's supposed to be preparing for Columbia. She's supposed to have a future." "She does know, Rosa, and she's sacrificing that future to try to save you." "I didn't want this," Rosa cried. "I've spent her entire life trying to give her better than I had. Better opportunities, better education, better everything. And now she's throwing it all away because of me." "She's not throwing anything away. She's fighting for her mother, just like you're fighting for her. I need to stop her. I need to make her quit those jobs. She needs to focus on school." With what money? If she stops working and you can't afford the treatments, then I'll stop the treatments, Rosa said fiercely. I'll let nature take its course. I won't let my daughter destroy her life for me. And you think that won't destroy her? Watching you die when she could have done something about it? We stared at each other across my kitchen table, and I saw my own past reflected in her eyes. Amanda making decisions alone. Amanda trying to protect me by hiding the truth. Amanda dying before I even fully understood what we were fighting. This is why I didn't tell her, Rosa whispered. This is exactly why. Because she'd do something stupid and selfless like this. Because she'd put me before herself. Because she's a better person than I deserve. She's exactly the person you raised her to be, I said. Loyal, strong, willing to fight for the people she loves. You taught her that, Rosa. You can't be angry at her for learning the lesson too well. Rosa put her face in her hands. What do I do? How do I fix this? You let me help. No. Rosa. No, she said more firmly, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I appreciate what you're trying to do, Mr. Chen, I really do. But I can't take charity from you. I have my pride. I have my dignity. I've spent my entire life standing on my own 2 feet, and I'm not going to start taking handouts now. There it was. The same pride that had killed Amanda, the same stubborn independence that was killing Rosa and Sophia both. It's not charity, I said. It's paying back a debt. You don't owe me anything. Are you kidding? Rosa, when Amanda was dying, you were there every single day. You held her hand when I couldn't bear to. You made her comfortable when I was falling apart. You cleaned up my house and my life when I couldn't function. You've been holding me together for 4 years. If that's not debt, I don't know what is. I was doing my job. Bullshit. Your job is to clean my house. Your job isn't to hold a dying woman's hand at 2 in the morning. Your job isn't to make soup for someone too sick to eat it. Your job isn't to cry with a stranger at a funeral. You did all that because you're a good person, because you cared, because you have a heart bigger than this entire mansion. And now you're dying and you won't let me do for you what you did for Amanda. That's different. How? How is it different? Because you paid me. This was a professional relationship. Was it professional when you held my hand at Amanda's funeral? I asked. Was it professional when you came in on your day off because you knew I couldn't face being alone? Was it professional when you left white roses outside my door every year on her birthday without being asked? Rosa looked away. That was just basic human decency. Exactly. Basic human decency. So let me show you the same thing. Let me help you. I can't accept money from you. What would that make me? It would make you someone who's willing to swallow her pride to save her daughter's future. Because this isn't just about you anymore, Rosa. Sophia is out there right now, probably sitting in a classroom after 0 hours of sleep, trying to stay awake, trying to keep her grades up, trying to be normal while her entire world is falling apart. Is your pride worth more than her health, her education, her future? The words hit home. I saw it in the way Rosa's shoulders sagged, the way her face collapsed. I don't know what to do, she whispered. I'm so tired, Mr. Chen. I'm so tired of fighting alone. I'm so tired of pretending everything is fine. I'm so tired of watching my savings disappear and knowing it's still not enough. I'm so tired of being brave. My throat tightened. Then stop. Stop fighting alone. Stop pretending. Let someone else be brave for you for a change. She looked at me with such raw vulnerability that I had to look away. If I accept help from you, I'm admitting I can't do this myself. I'm admitting I failed. You haven't failed. You've been fighting a war on multiple fronts with no support and limited resources. That's not failure, Rosa. That's heroism. But even heroes need backup sometimes. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the broken coffee pot still scattered across the floor, at the blood on the towel around her finger, at the mess that felt like a metaphor for everything. What would you do? She finally asked. If I said yes, what would you actually do? I'd pay for your treatments, all of them. Whatever insurance doesn't cover, whatever experimental drugs or procedures you need, I'd handle it. And I'd set up a fund for Sophia's education so she can go to Columbia without loans, without stress, without working herself to death. That's too much. That's way too much. Rosa, I'm a billionaire. Do you know what that means? It means I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. It means I buy things I don't need because I can. It means the amount of money that would change your entire life is less than I spend on a car I barely drive. So please, please stop thinking about this in terms of too much or charity or debt. Think about it in terms of what's right. I don't know if I can, she said. I don't know if I can let go of my pride like that. Then don't do it for you. Do it for Sophia. Because if you die, if this cancer wins because you were too proud to accept help, what do you think that will do to her? She'll blame herself. She'll think she should have worked harder, done more, saved you somehow. She'll carry that guilt for the rest of her life, and trust me, Rosa, that guilt is a heavier burden than any amount of damaged pride. I saw the moment she broke. The moment the walls came down and the weight of everything she'd been carrying alone finally crushed her. I'm scared, she whispered. I'm so scared of dying. I'm scared of leaving Sophia alone. I'm scared that even with help it won't be enough. I'm scared of hope, because if I hope, and it doesn't work, I don't know how I'll survive the disappointment. I reached across the table and took her hand, the same way she'd held mine at Amanda's funeral. I'm scared too, I admitted. I'm scared of watching another person I care about die. I'm scared of failing again. I'm scared that we've already wasted too much time, but I'd rather try and fail than never try at all. And I'd rather you be angry at me for interfering than stand by and watch you disappear. She squeezed my hand, and I felt how thin her fingers had become, how fragile. Okay, she said finally. Okay, but I have conditions. Name them. I keep working as long as I'm able. I'm not going to sit at home feeling useless while you pay for everything. Agreed, but the second the doctors say you need rest, you rest. No arguments. Fine. Second condition, Sophia can't know the money is from you. If she knows, she'll feel obligated, like we owe you something beyond what we can repay. I want her to think it's insurance or a program through your company or something that makes it seem less personal. I nodded slowly. I can arrange that. My lawyers can structure it as a company benefit or insurance payout. She won't know it's directly from me. Third condition, you let me tell Sophia about the cancer myself, in my own time, in my own way. How long? I don't know. Soon. I can't keep lying to her now that I know she knows something is wrong, but I need to figure out how to tell her in a way that doesn't make her feel guilty or responsible. Rosa, she already feels responsible. She's working 3 jobs. I know, Rosa said, fresh tears spilling over. I know, and I need to stop that immediately, but I need to do it right. Give me a few days. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell her that time was something we might not have, but I understood. She needed to feel like she had some control in a situation where she'd lost all control. 1 week, I said. You have 1 week to tell her, or I'm telling her myself. I won't watch that child work herself to death while you figure out the perfect words. 1 week, she agreed. Thank you, Mr. Chen. I don't know how I'll ever repay you for this. You already have, years ago. You just don't realize it. We sat there in my kitchen surrounded by broken glass and spilled coffee, and for the first time since Amanda died, I felt like maybe I could do something meaningful with all this money and power and privilege. Maybe I could actually save someone this time. But first, I had to have a very difficult conversation with my lawyers. That afternoon, I called an emergency meeting with my legal team. They arrived at my home office within 2 hours, 3 lawyers in expensive suits carrying briefcases and iPads, ready to discuss whatever crisis required such urgency. Gentlemen, I said, I need you to create a financial structure that will accomplish several things without appearing to be what it actually is. The senior partner, Martin Kozlowski, 60 years old with silver hair and a reputation for making impossible deals happen, leaned forward with interest. I'm intrigued. What are we trying to accomplish? I need to pay for medical treatments for an employee, set up an educational fund for her daughter, and do it in a way that looks like a legitimate company benefit or insurance claim, rather than personal charity. Martin's eyebrow rose. May I ask why the subterfuge? Because the person involved has too much pride to accept direct help. She needs to believe this is something she's entitled to, something she earned, not something I'm giving her out of pity. That's going to be complicated, one of the junior lawyers said, tapping on his iPad. The IRS has strict rules about disguised compensation. If we structure this wrong, it could be seen as taxable income, which would defeat the purpose. Then structure it right, I said. That's what I pay you for. Martin smiled. All right, let's think through this. Your employee, does she have health insurance through your company? Yes, standard coverage. And the treatments needed, they're not covered by the insurance? Experimental cancer treatments. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The room went quiet. Martin's smile faded. I'm sorry to hear that, he said softly. Pancreatic cancer is brutal, which is why time matters. I need this done quickly. He nodded. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. We can create what's called a medical catastrophic event fund through your company. It's a discretionary benefit plan that provides additional coverage for employees facing major health crises. You fund it, the company administers it, and from your employee's perspective, she's simply accessing a benefit that was always available but never needed before. That works for the medical bills, I said. What about the daughter's education? How old is she? 17. Just got accepted to Columbia. Perfect. You can establish an employee-dependent scholarship program. Many companies have them. It provides educational assistance to children of long-term employees as a retention and morale benefit. You set the criteria, we make sure she qualifies, and she receives a full scholarship that appears to come from the company, not from you personally. I leaned back in my chair, relief flooding through me. How long will it take to set this up? For something this important? We can have the paperwork done by tomorrow. The Medical Catastrophic Event Fund can be retroactive, covering expenses already incurred. The scholarship program will take a few more days, but we can have a commitment letter ready immediately. Do it, I said. Whatever it costs, whatever you need, make this happen. There's one more thing we should discuss, Martin said carefully. If this employee's prognosis is as serious as you've indicated, we should also think about long-term planning. What happens if the treatments don't work? Does she have life insurance? Does she have a will? Is the daughter a legal adult? My stomach dropped. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know, I admitted. Find out, Martin said gently. Because if the worst happens, you'll want to make sure the daughter is taken care of, and that gets exponentially more complicated if proper planning isn't in place. If the daughter is still a minor when her mother passes, there could be custody issues, estate issues, all sorts of legal complications. She'll be 18 in a few months, I said, though I wasn't actually sure. But you're right. I need to think about contingencies. Would you want to create a trust for the daughter? Something that ensures she's taken care of regardless of what happens? I thought about Sophia, exhausted at 3 a.m, scrubbing dishes with raw hands, sacrificing everything for her mother. Yes, I said. Set up a trust. Make it substantial enough that she never has to worry about money again. Make it conditional on her completing her education, so she can't just take the money and stop trying, but make sure she's protected. That's going to be harder to disguise, the junior lawyer warned. A trust in her name funded by you, that's clearly personal. I don't care, I said. If Rosa passes, Sophia will have bigger things to worry about than pride. And at that point, she'll need to know that someone is looking out for her. Set it up. Martin nodded. We'll draft everything and have it ready for your review tomorrow morning. After they left, I sat alone in my office and called the best oncologist I knew, David Morrison, an old friend from MIT who'd gone into medicine instead of tech and now ran one of the top cancer research centers in the country. "Marcus Chen," he said when he answered. "This is a surprise. How are you?" "I need a favor, David, a big one." "Name it." I told him about Rosa, about the pancreatic cancer, about the experimental treatment she was on. I asked if he could review her case, if he could connect her with the best specialists if there was any cutting-edge research that might help. "Pancreatic cancer is tough," David said honestly. "Stage 4, the survival rates are grim. But if she's responding to an experimental treatment, that's actually promising. Send me her medical records. I'll review them personally and see if there's anything else we can try. I've got a colleague at Sloan Kettering who's doing incredible work with immunotherapy for pancreatic cancer. Maybe she'd be a candidate." "Whatever it takes," I said. "Cost is not an issue." "Marcus, I have to ask, who is this woman to you?" I thought about that. Who was Rosa to me? An employee, a friend, family? "She's someone who was there when I needed her most," I said finally, "and now it's my turn." "I'll do everything I can," David promised. That evening I couldn't sit still. I paced my house, walked through rooms I never used, stood in the kitchen where this had all started, where Sophia had been washing dishes and Rosa had broken a coffee pot and everything had changed. The house felt different now. Less like a mausoleum, less like a monument to loss. It felt like maybe, possibly, it could be a place where something good happened, where someone was saved instead of lost. My phone rang at 9 p.m. "Rosa." "Mr. Chen? I'm sorry to call so late." "It's fine." "What's wrong?" "It's Sophia. I tried to talk to her about quitting her jobs. I didn't tell her about the cancer yet. I just said that I knew she was working nights and it needed to stop, and she—" Rosa's voice broke. "She ran out. She said I didn't understand, that she couldn't stop, that it was important. And now she's not answering her phone and I don't know where she is and I'm scared." I was already grabbing my keys. "I'll find her, don't worry." "How will you find her?" "Good question." Where would a desperate 17-year-old go when her world was falling apart? Then I remembered. The diner. Her first job. Maybe she went there. "I have an idea," I said. "Stay by your phone. I'll call you when I find her." I drove to Bridgeport faster than I should have, my Tesla humming through the night, and pulled into the diner parking lot at 9:45. Through the window I could see Sophia sitting in a back booth, still in her school clothes, staring at a cup of coffee she probably wasn't drinking. I went inside. The night shift waitress, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes, looked at me like I didn't belong, which was fair. Men in designer suits didn't usually frequent this place at 10 p.m. on a weeknight. Sophia didn't notice me until I slid into the booth across from her. She looked up, and the expression on her face was pure devastation. "How did you find me?" she whispered. "I know more than you think I do, Sophia. Your mother called. She's worried about you." "Did she tell you?" Sophia asked. "About the cancer?" So Rosa had finally told her. Or maybe Sophia had forced the confrontation. "Yes," I said. "She told me." Sophia's face crumpled. "I can't stop working. I know she wants me to, but I can't. The medical bills are insane, Mr. Chen. Even with insurance, they're insane. And she's paying for experimental treatments that insurance won't cover, and she sold everything, and she took a loan against the house, and if I stop working, how will we pay for it all? How will we keep her alive?" "Sophia, listen to me." "No, you don't understand," she interrupted, tears streaming down her face. "Everyone keeps saying I don't understand, but I do. I understand that my mother is dying. I understand that money might be the only thing that saves her. And I understand that I'm the only one who can help because she won't ask anyone for anything. So I have to work. I have to." I reached across the table and took both her hands in mine. "You don't," I said firmly. "Not anymore. It's handled." She stared at me. "What do you mean it's handled?" "I mean I've set up a medical fund through my company. Your mother qualifies. All her treatments will be covered. Everything the insurance doesn't pay, the fund will. She doesn't have to worry about money anymore, which means you don't have to work 3 jobs. You can quit. You can go back to being a student. You can sleep. Sophia pulled her hands back like I'd burned her. You're paying for it, she said flatly. You're paying for my mother's cancer treatment. The company is, don't lie to me, there's no fund. You created it for her, for us, because you feel sorry for us. I don't feel sorry for you. I feel grateful to you, to both of you. We don't want your charity. It's not charity, Sophia. Your mother has worked for me for 15 years. She was there for me when my wife died. She's earned this. She's earned her salary. She hasn't earned you paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for cancer treatment. Who decides what people earn? Who decides what kindness is worth? Your mother gave me kindness when I needed it most. Now I'm returning it. That's not charity. That's balance. That's fair. Sophia shook her head, fresh tears falling. I can't let you do this. It's too much. We'll owe you forever. You don't owe me anything. That's the point. This isn't a loan. It's not a debt. It's a gift, freely given with no strings attached. There are always strings. Rich people don't just give money away for nothing. The cynicism in her voice made my chest ache. How much had this child seen to make her so suspicious of kindness? Some do, I said quietly. Some of us have more money than we know what to do with, and we're looking for ways to make it mean something. Your mother's life means something to me. Your future means something to me. Let me help, please. We sat in that diner booth and I watched her wrestle with pride and desperation, with hope and fear. She was so young to be carrying such weight. If I say yes, she finally whispered, if I let you do this, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have done it myself. If I was strong enough. You are strong enough, I said. You've already proven that. You've been working 3 jobs while going to school. You've been sacrificing your future to save your mother. That's strength, Sophia. But being strong doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is accept help. She closed her eyes, and I saw her take a deep, shuddering breath. Okay, she said. Okay. But I'm going to pay you back someday. When I'm a doctor and I'm making money, I'm going to pay back every cent. I smiled. Deal, but it might take a while. Medical school is expensive. I don't care. I'll pay you back. Then I'll look forward to it. In about 20 years. For the first time since I'd met her, Sophia laughed. It was watery and broken, but it was a laugh. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know how to thank you properly. But thank you. Take care of your mother, I said. Study hard. Become an amazing doctor. Save lives. That will be thanks enough. I drove Sophia home that night, and Rosa was waiting on the porch, and when Sophia got out of the car and ran to her mother, when they held each other and cried, I sat in my Tesla and watched and felt something I hadn't felt in 4 years. Hope. Maybe this time the story would end differently. Maybe this time I could save someone. The next 6 months were a blur of doctor's appointments, treatment schedules, and cautious optimism. Rosa started seeing David Morrison's team at the research center, and they adjusted her protocol, adding immunotherapy to her experimental treatment. The results were better than anyone dared to hope. Her tumor markers dropped. Her energy improved. She started gaining weight again. Sophia quit all 3 of her night jobs. It took her 2 weeks to actually do it because she kept finding excuses, kept thinking of reasons why maybe she should keep just 1 shift, just in case. But eventually, with Rosa and me both pushing her, she let them all go. She went back to being a full-time student, and her grades, which had started slipping, climbed back up to where they'd been before. I saw the change in both of them. Rosa moved through my house with less pain, more lightness. She laughed again, real laughs that reached her eyes. She started making plans for the future, talking about Sophia's graduation, about visiting Colombia in the fall, about maybe taking a vacation someday. And Sophia? she transformed back into the brilliant, vibrant young woman she was supposed to be. The dark circles faded. The exhaustion lifted. She started talking about her classes with excitement instead of just grim determination. She joined a volunteer program at a local hospital, shadowing doctors, preparing for her future in medicine. But it wasn't all smooth. There were setbacks. Days when Rosa was too sick to work, when the treatments made her violently ill, when the pain came back with a vengeance. Days when Sophia's fear overwhelmed her, and she'd call me in a panic, convinced her mother was dying, convinced the treatments weren't working. On those days, I'd drive to Bridgeport, to their little house with the sagging porch, and I'd sit with them. Sometimes we'd talk. Sometimes we'd just exist in the same space. Three people bound together by loss and hope, and the fragile thread of possibility. One evening in March, Rosa asked me to stay for dinner. It was the first time in 15 years that she'd invited me to sit at a table as a guest rather than serve me as an employee. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I don't want to intrude." "Mr. Chen, you've paid for my cancer treatment, set up my daughter's future, and sat with us through the worst moments of our lives. I think we're past the point of intrusion. Besides, Sophia's making her famous chicken mole and there's way too much for just the two of us." So I stayed, and I sat at their small kitchen table in their small house, and Sophia served me homemade chicken mole that was better than anything I'd eaten in a 5-star restaurant, and we talked. Not about cancer or treatments or fear, but about normal things. Sophia's upcoming prom, Rosa's plans for a small garden in the backyard. A funny thing that happened at the grocery store. It was ordinary. Completely, beautifully ordinary. And somewhere between the second helping of mole and Sophia's story about her biology teacher, I realized something. I was happy. Actually, genuinely happy for the first time since Amanda died. This house, these people, this simple dinner, it filled something in me that had been hollow for so long. "Mr. Chen?" Sophia said, and I realized I'd been staring at my plate with a stupid smile on my face. "Sorry, I was just thinking. This is really good. Thank you for having me." Rosa and Sophia exchanged a look, one of those mother-daughter communications that needed no words. "Mr. Chen," Rosa said carefully, "Sophia and I have been talking, and we want to ask you something. You can say no and it won't change anything between us, but we wanted to ask." "Okay," I said, suddenly nervous. Sophia took over. "You've been eating alone in that big house for years. And we're always cooking too much food because Mom hasn't adjusted her portion since it was just the two of us. So we were thinking, maybe once a week if you wanted, you could come have dinner here. With us. As a family thing, not a work thing." My throat tightened. "You want me to have dinner with you? Regularly?" "Only if you want to," Rosa said quickly. "We know you're busy, and you have your own life, and we don't want to impose—" "Yes," I interrupted. "Yes, I'd like that very much." Sophia grinned. "Great, because honestly, Mr. Chen, your cooking skills are terrible. I've seen what you eat when Mom's not there. Cereal and protein bars do not constitute a balanced diet." I laughed. "Fair point." So Thursday nights became dinner night. Every Thursday I'd leave work early, drive to Bridgeport and have dinner with Rosa and Sophia. Sometimes I'd bring groceries. Sometimes Sophia would teach me to cook, which was hilarious because I was terrible at it. Sometimes we'd watch a movie after dinner. The three of us crowded on their old couch and it felt more like home than my mansion ever had. In April, Sophia got her acceptance packet from Columbia with the full scholarship details. The scholarship I'd set up, though she still thought it came from some generic company fund. She cried when she read it, and Rosa cried, and I might have gotten a little misty-eyed too. "I can't believe it's real," Sophia said, clutching the papers. "I'm actually going to Columbia. I'm actually going to be a doctor." "You're going to be an incredible doctor," I said. "Your future patients are lucky." She hugged me then, suddenly and fiercely, and whispered, "Thank you for giving me back my dreams. I'd given up on them, and you gave them back. In May, Rosa had a major scan, the kind that would tell us if the treatments were actually working or if we were just buying time. The three of us sat in the waiting room at the research center, and I held Rosa's hand while Sophia held her other hand, and we waited for David Morrison to come out with results. When he finally appeared, his face was carefully neutral, and my heart sank. Then he smiled. Rosa, I don't want to use the word miracle because it diminishes the science and your own fighting spirit, but I'm struggling to find another word. Your tumors have shrunk by 70%. Your blood work is nearly normal. You're in what we call a strong partial remission. Rosa just stared at him. What does that mean? It means the cancer is still there, but it's small, it's controlled, and if we keep doing what we're doing, we have real hope for long-term survival. It means you get to see your daughter graduate high school, go to college, maybe even become a doctor. Sophia burst into tears. Rosa sat frozen, like she couldn't process the information. And I felt something break loose in my chest, some tight knot of fear I'd been carrying since that first night in my kitchen. Are you saying I'm not dying? Rosa finally asked. I'm saying you're fighting, and you're winning. You're not out of the woods, Rosa. This is still serious, but the path forward looks so much better than it did 6 months ago. We left the hospital in a daze. Sophia kept laughing and crying at the same time. Rosa kept saying, I can't believe it, over and over. And I drove them home, and we ordered pizza, and we celebrated this strange, unexpected gift of time. That night, after Sophia had gone to bed, Rosa and I sat on her front porch in the warm May darkness. I would have died, she said quietly. If you hadn't intervened, if you hadn't forced me to accept help, I would have kept going until my body gave out. The treatments I could afford on my own weren't enough. I know that now. You don't know that, I said. I do. The doctors told me. The immunotherapy, the combination protocol, that's what made the difference, and I couldn't have afforded that without you. She turned to look at me, tears reflecting the streetlight. You saved my life, Mr. Chen. Marcus, I said. After everything we've been through, I think you can call me Marcus. She smiled. Marcus, you saved my life. And I don't know how to carry that. I don't know how to live with owing someone everything. You don't owe me anything, Rosa. But if it makes you feel better, think of it this way. You saved me too. How? I didn't do anything. You gave me purpose again. After Amanda died, I was just existing, going through the motions, building companies and making money because that's what I knew how to do, but none of it meant anything. I was empty. And then I found Sophia in my kitchen, and everything changed. You and Sophia, you gave me a reason to care again. You gave me a family when I thought I'd lost mine forever. So maybe we saved each other. Rosa reached over and took my hand, the same way she'd held mine at Amanda's funeral all those years ago. Thank you, Marcus, for everything, for seeing us when you could have looked away, for caring when you could have stayed distant, for fighting for us when we were too tired to fight for ourselves. That's what family does, I said. We sat in comfortable silence, and I thought about the strange path that had led us here. How loss and grief and a sleepless night had somehow transformed into hope and healing, and something that looked a lot like love. Not romantic love, but something deeper, something more essential. The love of people who'd walked through fire together and come out the other side. Sophia graduated high school in June with full honors, and Rosa and I sat together in the audience, both of us crying like idiots when Sophia walked across the stage. At the reception after, Sophia introduced me to her friends as Marcus, my family friend, and the simplicity of that, the casualness of being included, meant more than any business success ever had. In August, we moved Sophia into her dorm at Columbia. Rosa had worried she wasn't strong enough to help, but she insisted on coming, and between the three of us, we hauled boxes up 4 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. We made her bed, hung posters, organized her tiny closet, and pretended we weren't all fighting tears. When it was time to leave, Sophia hugged her mother for a long time. "I'm so proud of you," Rosa whispered. "You're going to do amazing things." "I learned from the best," Sophia said. "You taught me to be strong, to fight, to never give up." Then Sophia turned to me and hugged me just as tightly. "Thank you for believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. Thank you for saving my mom. Thank you for being family." I couldn't speak. I just held her and hoped she understood everything I couldn't put into words. Rosa and I drove back to Connecticut together, and the car felt too quiet without Sophia's chatter filling the space. "The house is going to be so empty," Rosa said. "You could always move into my place," I suggested, half joking. "I have 14 bedrooms. You could pick whichever one you wanted." Rosa laughed. "And what would people say? Your housekeeper moving into the mansion? That my friend was staying with me. That family takes care of family." She looked at me seriously. "Are you actually offering?" I thought about it. Was I? My house had been a mausoleum for 4 years, a monument to loss. But maybe it could be something else. Maybe it could be a home again. "Yes," I said. "I'm actually offering. Not as an employer and employee, as friends, as family. You've been in remission for months, but you still need monitoring, still need to be near the research center. And honestly, Rosa, I'm tired of eating alone. I'm tired of that house being empty. It should have people in it, life in it." I couldn't possibly. "Why not? You've already redefined every other boundary in our relationship. Why not this one too? You could keep your house in Bridgeport, use it on weekends, or rent it out for extra income. But during the week you could stay in Greenwich. Keep me company. Make sure I don't just eat cereal for dinner when Sophia's not around to stop me." Rosa was quiet for a long moment. "Can I think about it?" "Of course." 2 weeks later, Rosa moved into one of my guest rooms. She insisted on paying rent, which I refused, so we compromised on her managing the household and cooking dinners, which she would have done anyway. She turned one of the unused spaces into an art studio because I learned she'd always wanted to paint, but never had the time or space. My house transformed. There were fresh flowers on tables, music playing in rooms that had been silent for years, the smell of cooking filling the hallways, and every evening Rosa and I would have dinner together, and we'd talk about our days, and it was normal and ordinary, and exactly what I'd been missing without knowing it. Sophia came home for Thanksgiving, and the 3 of us cooked together in my massive kitchen, and we laughed when the turkey was too dry and the mashed potatoes were too salty, and it was perfect anyway because we were together. "This is weird," Sophia said at one point, looking around my dining room with its crystal chandelier and original artwork. "A year ago, Mom and I were terrified we'd lose our house. We were drowning in medical bills and working ourselves to death. And now we're having Thanksgiving in a mansion in Greenwich. How did this become our life?" "It became our life because we let it," Rosa said. "Because we stopped fighting alone. Because we accepted help. Because Marcus saw us as people worth saving." "You were always worth saving," I said. "I just recognized what was already there." After dinner, we sat in the living room, full and content, and Sophia said, "I've been thinking about something. When I'm a doctor, I want to work with underserved communities, people like us who can't afford the best care, who have to choose between treatment and keeping their homes. I want to make sure no one has to make the choices we had to make." "That's a beautiful goal," I said. "I learned it from watching you," Sophia said. "The way you helped us. No strings attached, just because it was the right thing to do. That's the kind of doctor I want to be. The kind of person I want to be." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. "You already are that person, Mija. You've always been that person." Later, after Sophia had gone to bed in her designated room, because of course she had a room now in my house, how could she not? Rosa and I stood on the terrace looking out over the dark grounds. "Do you ever think about how different things would be if you hadn't come downstairs that night?" Rosa asked. "If you'd just stayed in bed, never found Sophia in your kitchen?" "All the time," I admitted. "And it terrifies me," Because you would have kept hiding your illness. Sophia would have kept working herself to death. And I would have stayed in my isolated bubble, never understanding what was happening right in front of me. We all would have lost. But we didn't lose, that's the miracle of it. The universe gave us a second chance, I said. Amanda used to say that life puts people in our path when we need them most. I didn't believe her then. I thought it was just optimistic nonsense. But maybe she was right. Maybe you and Sophia came into my life exactly when I needed you, and I came into yours exactly when you needed me. Maybe that's not coincidence. Maybe that's how the world balances itself. Rosa smiled. Amanda was a wise woman. She was. I wish you could have known her better. I knew her enough to see how much she loved you, and I think she'd be happy to know you're not alone anymore, that you found family again. I think so too. We stood in comfortable silence, and I thought about the long, strange journey that had brought us here. From employer and employee to this, whatever this was. Family, friendship, something that defied easy categorization, but felt more real than any relationship I'd had in years. Christmas was the same. New Year's. Sophia's birthday in February, which we celebrated with an elaborate dinner and a cake Rosa spent 2 days perfecting. My birthday in March, which I'd stopped celebrating after Amanda died, but which Rosa and Sophia insisted on acknowledging with presents and embarrassing songs and the kind of genuine affection that made my chest ache. In April, almost exactly a year after Rosa's miraculous scan, she had another major checkup. We'd been holding our breath for weeks, terrified that the remission wouldn't hold, that the cancer would come roaring back. David Morrison called me directly after the appointment. Marcus, she's clear, completely clear. No detectable cancer. If she maintains this for 5 years, we'll call it a cure. I sat down hard in my office chair, the phone pressed against my ear, and I couldn't speak. Marcus, did you hear me? She's in complete remission. I heard you, I managed. Thank you, David, thank you for everything. Thank the science. Thank Rosa's fighting spirit. Thank whatever force in the universe brought her to us in time. When I got home that evening, Rosa and Sophia were waiting in the living room, and the joy on their faces told me they already knew. We're celebrating, Sophia announced. Mom's officially cancer-free. We're going out to dinner, somewhere fancy, and you're paying because you're the billionaire. I laughed. Deal. But actually, I have something for both of you first. I pulled out 2 envelopes I'd been carrying in my briefcase for weeks, waiting for the right moment. What are these? Rosa asked suspiciously. Open them. Rosa opened hers first. Inside was a deed. To her house in Bridgeport, fully paid off, no more mortgage. Marcus, what did you do? I paid off your house. It's yours, free and clear. So you never have to worry about losing it again. And there's something else in there. She pulled out a second document, a position offer. Director of Household Operations for Chen Industries, with a salary triple what she'd been making, full benefits, and the freedom to set her own schedule. This is too much, she whispered. It's not enough, I said. But it's a start. Sophia opened her envelope next. Inside was a trust document, a substantial trust that would ensure she'd never have to worry about money again, conditional only on completing her medical degree. Marcus, this is insane. This is millions of dollars. It's insurance, I said, against ever having to make the choices you made last year, against ever having to sacrifice your dreams for survival. You're going to be an incredible doctor, Sophia. This just makes sure nothing gets in the way of that. Both of them were crying now, and honestly, so was I. Why are you doing all this? Rosa asked. You've already done so much. Because a year ago, I was alone in a house that felt like a tomb. I was going through the motions of living without actually being alive. And then I found Sophia in my kitchen at 3 a.m, and everything changed. You both reminded me what it means to care about something beyond myself. You gave me purpose. You gave me family. So this isn't charity, Rosa. This is gratitude. We're the ones who should be grateful, Sophia said. Then let's all be grateful together, I suggested. Now come on, we have a celebration dinner to get to. We went to the best restaurant in Greenwich and we laughed and talked and toasted to second chances and new beginnings and the strange, beautiful way life brings people together. And for the first time since Amanda died, I felt complete. Not because I'd filled the void she left that would never be filled, but because I'd found a new kind of love, a new kind of family, a new reason to wake up in the morning. Sophia went back to Colombia after that weekend, and Rosa and I fell back into our comfortable routine. But it was different now. Lighter. The fear that had shadowed everything for a year was finally gone. Rosa was going to live. Sophia was going to become a doctor. And I had discovered that wealth meant nothing if you had no one to share it with, but everything when you used it to save the people you loved. One evening in May, almost exactly a year after that first Thursday dinner in Bridgeport, Rosa and I were sitting on my terrace, watching the sunset. "I've been thinking," Rosa said, "about what you said, about how Amanda believed people come into our lives when we need them most. Yeah? I think she was onto something, but I think it goes both ways. I think we don't just receive help when we need it. I think we're also given opportunities to give help, to be the person someone else needs. And whether we recognize those opportunities, whether we act on them, that's what defines us." "That's very philosophical," I said. "I've had a lot of time to think this past year. When you're facing death, you start seeing patterns you missed before. You start understanding how everything connects." "And what have you concluded?" She smiled. "That the universe works in circles. What you give comes back to you. The help you offer returns when you need it. The love you share multiplies and comes back transformed. You helped me, and in helping me you helped yourself. I cared for you when Amanda died, and when I needed care, you were there. Sophia fought for me, and I fought for her, and you fought for both of us. It's all connected." I thought about that, about the circles and patterns, about giving and receiving, about the way one act of kindness rippled outward in ways you couldn't predict. "You know what the funny thing is?" I said. "A year ago, if someone had told me that finding a teenager in my kitchen at 3 a.m. would change my entire life, I would have thought they were crazy. But that's exactly what happened. One moment, one decision to not look away, to not mind my own business, to care about someone else's struggle, and everything changed." "That's the thing about moments," Rosa said. "You never know which ones will matter until later. You never know which small act of attention, which tiny choice to be present instead of absent will transform everything." We sat in silence for a while, watching the colors fade from the sky. "Thank you, Rosa," I said finally, "for letting me help, for letting me be part of your family, for not letting pride stand in the way of survival." "Thank you for seeing us," she replied. "Really seeing us. Not just as the help, not just as people who existed in the background of your life, but as human beings worth fighting for." "Always," I said. "You'll always be worth fighting for." 3 years later, I stood in the audience at Columbia's medical school graduation and watched Sofia Martinez walk across the stage to receive her doctorate. She'd graduated top of her class. She'd already been accepted into a residency program at a hospital that served underprivileged communities. She was going to do exactly what she'd promised: help people like her mother, people who needed advocates, people who deserved the best care regardless of their bank accounts. Rosa sat beside me, healthy and strong, cancer-free for over 3 years now. She'd taken to her new role at my company like she was born for it, managing not just my household but coordinating charitable initiatives we'd started together. We'd established a fund for employees facing medical crises, a scholarship program for children of service workers, a network of support for families dealing with catastrophic illness. What had started with one desperate teenager in a kitchen at 3 a.m. had grown into something that helped thousands of people. Because that's how it works. One act of kindness, One decision to help, one refusal to look away, and it ripples outward in ways you can never fully predict. When Sophia's name was called, when she walked across that stage in her doctoral robes, Rosa grabbed my hand and squeezed tight. "We did it," she whispered. "She did it." "She always would have," I said. "She's extraordinary, just like her mother." After the ceremony, Sophia found us in the crowd, and she was laughing and crying at the same time. "I'm a doctor," she said, like she couldn't quite believe it. "Mom, Marcus, I'm actually a doctor." "You're going to change lives," I said. "You're going to be the person for someone else that I got to be for you and your mother. You're going to see people who are drowning and you're going to save them." "I learned from the best," Sophia said, hugging us both. "You showed me what it looks like to actually care, to actually show up, to actually do something instead of just feeling bad about injustice. That's the kind of doctor I'm going to be." We celebrated that night, the three of us plus David Morrison, who'd become a friend over the years. We toasted to Sophia's future, to Rosa's health, to second chances and miracles, and the power of refusing to accept that some people are disposable. As the evening wound down, Sophia pulled me aside. "I've been thinking," she said, "about that night you found me in your kitchen. About how different everything would be if you'd just gone back to bed, if you'd decided it wasn't your problem, if you'd been like 99% of wealthy people who don't actually see their employees as human beings." "Where are you going with this?" "I'm going with this. You saved my life and my mother's life, and now I'm going to spend my career saving other people's lives. So in a way, every person I help, every life I save, that's because of you. Because of the choice you made to care. That ripple effect, it's going to go on forever." My throat tightened. "That's all you, Sophia. Your compassion, your brilliance, your determination. I just removed some obstacles. You did more than that. You showed me that people with power can choose to use it for good, that wealth doesn't have to create distance, that we're all connected, all responsible for each other. Those aren't small lessons, Marcus. They're everything." She was right, of course. In trying to save them, they'd saved me right back. They'd given me purpose and family and a reason to believe that maybe, just maybe, we can build a world where people don't have to choose between survival and dignity, where help is offered freely, where we actually take care of each other. Now, 5 years after that night in the kitchen, I'm sitting in my office looking at a photo on my desk. It's from last Thanksgiving, Rosa, Sophia, and me in my kitchen, covered in flour because Sophia insisted on teaching us to make homemade pasta, all of us laughing like idiots. My house isn't empty anymore. My life isn't empty anymore. I found family in unexpected places, and I learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do with wealth isn't building companies or making investments. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is pay attention. See people. Really see them. Notice when someone is struggling, care enough to ask questions, and then when you discover someone is drowning, throw them a lifeline instead of looking away. Because here's what I've learned. We're all connected. What happens to one of us affects all of us. The pain of the person cleaning your house is just as real as your own pain. The dreams of the teenager working 3 jobs are just as valid as the dreams of someone born with every advantage. And we all have the power to change someone's life if we're willing to actually use that power. If this story touched something in you, I want you to think about the people in your own life, the ones you see every day but don't really see. The checkout clerk who seems exhausted, the janitor who works nights, the single parent juggling 3 jobs. They all have stories. They all have struggles. And maybe, just maybe, you have the power to help in ways you haven't considered. Leave a comment and tell me about a time someone helped you when you needed it most. Or tell me about a time you helped someone else. Let's remind ourselves that we're all in this together, that kindness isn't weakness, that using whatever power and privilege we have to lift others up isn't charity. It's being human. And here's my question for you, the one I ask myself every day now. When was the last time you really looked at the people around you? Not just glanced at them, but actually saw them? Because I promise you, there's someone in your life right now who's drowning, who's fighting battles you know nothing about, who needs someone to notice. Be the person who notices. Be the person who cares. Be the person who helps. It might just save their life, and in the process, it might save yours too. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to Stories Forever. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and your stories inspire me to keep creating content that matters. What would you have done in Marcus's position? Have you ever been in a situation where pride almost kept you from accepting help you desperately needed? Let's talk about it in the comments. Remember, this channel is built on stories that remind us of our shared humanity, of the power of compassion, and of the incredible ways our lives intersect when we're brave enough to be vulnerable and generous enough to help. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a story, and check out the other videos on this channel. Each one explores different aspects of the human experience. Each one might be exactly what you need to hear today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community that believes in the power of stories to change hearts and minds. Until next time, take care of each other. Pay attention to the people around you. And remember that sometimes the most extraordinary acts start with the simplest decision: to care. Disclaimer: this is a work of fiction created for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to real events or use of public names is purely narrative and does not represent actual events. All names, characters, locations, and incidents are products of imagination or are used fictitiously. No real individuals, companies, or institutions are depicted. This story is designed to explore themes of compassion, human connection, and social responsibility through fictional storytelling. We respect YouTube's policies and the privacy of all individuals. If you found this story moving, it's because it touches on universal human experiences we all share: the struggle for dignity, the power of compassion, and the hope that when we're at our lowest, someone might notice and care.